So right here on this table, I have every single expensive kitchen gadget that I have collected over the years, ranging from $200 all the way up to $1,500. And today I'm gonna be going over each gadget to tell you which ones are worth the investment. So first I need to set a few ground rules before we get into this list. Number one is today I will not be including larger kitchen appliances like an oven, a stovetop, dishwasher, refrigerator. These are larger kitchen appliances. Most of them essential, and they are certainly not my expertise. Number two is this list will start at $200 considering it is a more expensive kitchen gadget list. So things like air fryers and food processors, standard blenders. A lot of these kitchen gadgets fall under that $200 mark, but in my opinion, if you are a pro home cook, you probably already have these because they are just more essential to home cooking. Whereas the list today, I would call these more non-essential items, although they certainly can open up new techniques in the kitchen, or they could potentially speed up your prep, or they could just generally improve your home cooking experience. And finally, number three is this video is not sponsored. My goal is to give you as honest of a review and an opinion on each of these products, but I definitely have worked with a lot of these brands in the past because I've been lucky enough to work with the brands that I love and the things that I use today. So some of these items I purchased myself, some of these items I received from the brands in exchange for reviews or content or promotion. And up first we have the Zojirushi 5.5 cup rice cooker. Now this is the only item on the list under $200. It comes in right under at $195, but I had to include it because I love this rice cooker. Now, do you need a $200 rice cooker? Absolutely not. This same brand makes rice cookers that start at around $50. But what I love about this brand is that they take the art of cooking rice very seriously. And this is just a big cultural difference between the East and the West. I mean, Zojirushi has been making rice cookers since 1920. Could you imagine telling an American to buy a rice cooker in the 1920s? It's taken almost a century for rice cookers to become more popular over in Western cuisine, as of course more Westerners cook more Eastern cuisine, which means a lot more rice. And now thanks to e-commerce and places like Amazon, it's very accessible to purchase these international brands. And this is one of their top rated rice cookers. It has like 11,000 reviews on Amazon. What I personally love about it is it has a lot of options for the type of rice, all the way down to say a semi-hard brown rice, which I actually buy a lot. And outside of that, all I can say is it works perfectly. So well that I used to bring this thing back and forth between my studio and my house, and then I just bought another because I make a lot of rice, and this takes out time, it takes out effort, and you get a perfect product. So I think overall, spending more money on a rice cooker for me has been a wonderful investment, and I have zero complaints about this thing. I know this same brand now makes induction powered rice cookers. They're a little bit more expensive. I have no idea how that improves the product. I can't imagine it's much of a difference considering the rice coming out of here is perfect. Next up, we have the Ninja Creamy Deluxe in this case. This retails for $210. There is a version right below this for a little cheaper. And I have had this machine now for 2 years. I made an entire video on it when I first got it, which now has over 1 million views. So there is a lot of demand for this product. I would say this is probably the most viral kitchen gadget I have ever seen on social media. But the virality of this, I think, holds up in real life. Like I said in the video I made, I've been waiting for a machine like this for almost 15 years. Something that really fit my needs, that had multiple uses. So you can do something as simple as throwing frozen fruit in the jar, freezing it, and throwing it through the Ninja for some great sorbet. Or I make traditional ice cream bases all the time and make really good ice cream. Now, is that ice cream gonna be as good of a product compared to a traditional ice cream maker? Probably not, but most really good ice cream makers are expensive, they can be very bulky, and they can't make as many things as the Creamy. Like I said in that video, the Creamy basically took the exact same technology as the Paco Jet, which is a $2,500 industrial version of this thing, and they put it in a $200 package, which has been such a game changer. And you can see that in the sales. I think people really like that you can do simple things in here and you can do more complex things in here. So I would say this baby has been totally worth the $200 $210 investment. Next up, we have an American classic, the KitchenAid. This is the Professional 5 Plus. It retails for $400. Now there are KitchenAids that are smaller for cheaper, or if you're a serious baker, you can go bigger than this. And what I'll say about KitchenAid is there's a reason this brand has been around and popping since 1920. I mean, a century later, these things still perform so well. And I think for me, there was so much American KitchenAid branding that I saw over the years. It was almost off-putting. I didn't want to commit to one of these things. I tried other mixers from different countries, like the Bosch, which works fine. I think it's a little bit more difficult to use than a KitchenAid. The Ankerstrom from Sweden. That thing is wonderful for just dedicated bread making. It's super sturdy. You can make big batches of bread, but it's not as all-purpose as the KitchenAid. This is the ultimate all-purpose stand mixer. It works so well for all of your baking needs, and that's why I love it. You can make great bread in here or baked goods. And of course, KitchenAid comes in with some incredible accessories. So you can pimp this thing out, and their accessories, from my experience, seem to work very well. Not to mention, you can pick whatever colorway you want to match your kitchen or just the vibe you're going for. So I think they're reasonably priced. Of course, you need space in your kitchen for one of these things, but in my opinion, they are definitely worth the investment if you're a baker. Next up, we have the Breville Tea Maker, which just brewed me up a pot of loose leaf tea. So this thing retails for 300 bucks. I actually got it right when it came out, which I think was like 9 or 10 years ago. And as you can see, it has still held up quite nicely. And that's just Breville for you. They always come in with great design. Their products are generally stainless steel, and they last for a while, making that investment generally a good one. Now at the time, 10 years ago, I was getting into loose leaf tea, and when I saw what this could do, I knew it was mandatory for me because it solves a few problems. So how this machine works is you fill up the basket with your loose leaf tea, then you pick the exact time and temperature that you want to brew your tea, which is very important because different types of tea require different temperatures and timing for their brew. Then the kettle heats up to the exact temperature and the basket lowers for the amount of time you put in, giving you the perfect cup of tea. Meanwhile, you can be doing other things, so it's saving you effort and time. You can also, of course, just use it as a regular kettle, so it takes care of that. So if you're a big loose leaf tea maker, you can't go wrong with this. Although I will mention, since this thing came onto the market, there have been other brands that have replicated it for a cheaper price online. There's a bunch of them. I can't speak for them because I haven't tried anything other than the Breville Tea Maker. So next up, we have the Tormac T1 Kitchen Knife Sharpener. Now this thing is pretty new for me. I've only had it for about 3 months, but it kind of has changed the knife sharpening game, potentially forever. Let me explain. So you have a few options for sharpening a knife. You could take it to a knife sharpening store or shop. Not a great option in my opinion. You could use one of these cheaper pull-through knife sharpeners. Again, not a great option. You could use one of these new roller kitchen knife sharpeners. They seem to work all right. I personally don't love them. Or finally, you can use a whetstone, which is what I have been using for years now. Now these are a great option. They definitely take skills. You need to learn the techniques to get it, which took me some time. It's a bit of a slow process to sharpen a knife this way. So I can't tell you how many times I have soaked those stones in water with the intention of sharpening my knives and just forgot them in the water for like 10 days. I'm a busy dad. I've got a lot going on, and that's where this thing comes into play. So Tormac has been making commercial knife sharpening machines for years, and this version has taken their tech and just shrunken it down for home kitchen use. And it's really simple to use. You have this little dial which adjusts the actual angle that you're sharpening your knife. Then you just run your knife through a few times one way, you run it through the other way. And just like using a whetstone, once you feel that burr is created, you send it through on this honing side, and boom, you have a brand new edge on this. If you have like crusty knives that are super dull, this thing will give you a brand new edge, which is incredible. So yes, this thing is certainly expensive versus buying a few of these stones, but the time saved, I mean, I can just rattle through like 10 knives in 10 minutes, which is insane. So for me, it's still early to really give you a definitive answer, but I think between the time saved and the ease of use, this is really gonna pay off over the years. So next up, we have the Neutr Mill. This thing retails for around $430. If you don't bake bread, just skip over this segment. Now what this is a home flour mill. Now it works pretty simply. You have two spinning stones that can be adjusted depending on the coarseness you want, and then you send your grains through there and they get milled up just like this. And the product you're gonna get on the other side, no matter what you're milling in there, could be flour, could be rice, is going to be a whole grain product. So then you can take that, you can sift out more of the starchy part, leaving more of the chaff or the exterior, or you can just use it in its whole grain form. You're never gonna get a flour as fine or as white as, say, an all-purpose flour like this. But when I'm making bread at home, I'll use a flour like this that I buy from the store, and then I'll throw in just maybe 10 or 20% of a whole grain that I milled down myself for extra flavor, for extra nutrition, and the bread products coming from something that fresh are just incredible. There's no way around it. So again, for the price, you gotta be like on homesteading levels or just really into baking for this thing to be worth it. I actually can't confirm that they make the Neutr Mill anymore. I know you can find it online, and there are other mills that are similar that you can find at different price points, but this thing is sturdy. It's gonna last you hopefully a lifetime, and I've certainly got a lot of use out of it. So I personally would recommend it. Up next, we have the Breville Super Q Blender Pro, which retails for a whopping $500. And I am obsessed with this machine. Now, what makes this thing so special is that it kind of plays in between the worlds of a high-powered blender like a Vitamix and just a standard blender. So for years, I had a standard Vitamix. I think it was the first expensive kitchen gadget that I ever bought. No, I did not buy it. That's a lie. I got it for, I think, like my 21st birthday or something. Thank you, Mom and Dad. And I used and abused that thing for like a decade until like the buttons were falling out and it was nearly wrecked. So I got a new Vitamix and I found that the quality of the newer versions really dropped a lot. It just felt a little bit cheaper. It didn't feel as rugged as the original, but that's what I was dealing with at the time. And a Vitamix really is a high-powered blender. That is its main mission. It's not great for more delicate things, whereas this thing can handle like a more delicate dressing or sauce, but then can do high-power blending for, say, smoothies or a big batch of soup or whatever it is. And of course with Breville, you have a beautiful design wrapped in stainless steel with just buttery smooth hardware and a beautiful interface that just works really well. So if a Vitamix is like a pickup truck, this thing is a luxury SUV. Obviously, it's a very high price point. They do make a cheaper Just Q version for $400, and then they make a much smaller version in the line for $200. So I can't recommend this for everyone, but personally, I love the fact that I don't need a separate regular blender and a high-power blender. It's all here in one product. All right, so I've come outside to talk about something that has to make the list, which are pizza ovens. Go into this greenhouse because it's nice and warm in here, although nothing is really growing at the time. So if you follow this channel for any of the pizza content, you've seen me use multiple pizza ovens over the years. My two favorite are one, the Unikaru, which can be converted for multi-fuel use. I use it for wood-fired pizza and it works flawlessly. I love that thing. I love the design. It's slightly more portable with the fold-out legs, so you can bring it from, say, position to position pretty easily. And then recently I got the Ghazni Arc, which has been popping up in some videos. This is a propane-based oven that I also love. Completely different design, definitely built a little bit more to stay in one place. Not a portable pizza oven by any means. I had never used a propane pizza oven before, but I do love how easy the propane makes it. You can just set a temperature and boom, you're ready to go. And cooks pizzas flawlessly. So both brands I've worked with, both brands I love. These home smaller pizza makers didn't exist that long ago. You needed like a brick oven, huge pizza maker, which in my opinion are completely unnecessary if you're just banging out a few pizzas because you don't want to wait hours for the thing to get hot. So if you're obsessed with pizza making, I love these types of pizza makers. Definitely, in my opinion, worth the investment. All right, so up next we have the Breville Barista Touch, which is this puppy right here. It retails for $1,500. So obviously that is a very high price point. Breville is just the master at home espresso makers. They've been doing it for a long time. They've been refining their products. They have only gotten better. I still have the original Breville Breville Touch at my house. It was like $1,000. I think you can get it for $800 now. It is held up. It still makes amazing espresso. And Breville has a ton of different options in the espresso world, depending on your price point and your needs. Now, what I love about this machine is it's a great combination between DIY and automation. You've got this touch screen that kind of takes care of a lot of the work for you, but you still have to tune things in yourself and learn about espresso making to get great espresso. And as you can see, just flawless design. Just waking up and looking at this machine makes me happy. But even just the thousands of espresso drinks that I have made from these Breville machines over the years, if you were buying those from the store, I mean, that is a lot of money. So eventually, at some point, they do sort of, I guess you can tell yourself they pay themselves off, but they do last a long time, I will say that. So life-changing. So finally, we have the Breville Control Freak. We're finishing this list with the most expensive kitchen gadget that I have at $1,500. I had seen this before. If you watch Chef Steps, they use these things all the time. They now have a partnership with Breville, and they have their own version that is synced up to their app. This is the original, and I wanted to try it, and I will say that I do not use it very often. What it is a precision induction cooker. So it uses induction technology, but you can precisely tune into the exact temperature to the degree that you want. And I think one of the coolest features is that you set the temperature, but it also shows you where the temperature's at of the actual pot or pan you're using on top of the induction burner. And this is one of those sciencey type kitchen gadgets that came out right around the popularity of the sous vide. It is amazing if you are looking for precision cooking and say you're frying something or you're sous videing something and you want to heat up water or oil to a certain temperature, or other things like making chocolate or candy. If that's your jam and you do some crazy shit in the kitchen, maybe this is worth the investment. For me, I generally don't need precision cooking. I like a good old flame, which is why for this cooking show, I could cook on this, but I'm choosing a $50 catering stove. So it's big and bulky, but it definitely does what it's supposed to do. I just can't recommend it for the price. And that's my list. That's nearly every single expensive kitchen gadget I have. This was not about me showing off my kitchen gadgets. That's not the point. This was hopefully giving you real reviews and advice that could help you when you go to invest in one of these products. And investment is the best word here. It's about an investment over time, picking those products that actually will pay off. You don't need them all, but even just a high power blender or a KitchenAid. For someone like me who's producing most of my meals at home, these products are super helpful and end up saving me money over the long term. And if you want to actually learn how to cook with them, click this video.